The following podcast contains explicit language and content that may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Get Spooky podcast, where two funny dudes share paranormal stuff, true crime, and other scary things from around the world. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Andrez.
And we wanted to switch up the intro a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I wanted to do it like a while back, but I never got around to it. I think it's been that on our Instagram for like almost a year.
Yeah. We're not getting divorced, knock on wood, that I know of.
Oh no, this is how you find out.
Oh shit. Knock on wood. I don't want to knock on wood right now. So what's been going on since the last time we recorded?
It's springtime. Finally, it's springtime.
Yeah, and we're supposed to get crazy ass weather again.
It actually was like the first day of spring, and then I think the day following, we had a really bad storm, like a thunderstorm, that there was like a possible tornado in our area, but then nothing happened. And then the day after that, we had a snowstorm. I think I mentioned it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, anyway, yeah. I think it happened like right after too. But yeah, we're fine. The weather's kind of crazy. What's going on with you?
So I got a new tattoo a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like pretty far into the healing phase. Now it's like all the extra dyes come off. Like the itchiness has been gone for a while, and like all I do now is make sure that stuff doesn't rub up on it and just put Aquaphor on it. I wash it with antibacterial soap and put Aquaphor on it. But it looks really nice. So it's a moth. I finally talked to my mom. I was telling you about it on my way home from work on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of not like nerve-wracking, but I knew she was going to tell me something about it because she's obviously a Mexican mom and I was never allowed to have a tattoo while I lived in her house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't live in her house. I haven't lived in her house for, 10 years now?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I was on the phone. I was just talking to her and I was like, ¿Cómo están todos? ¿Están listos para ir a Mexico? Like for the wedding and stuff like that. Just like, small talk. And then she's like, ya vi que tienes una mariposa en la espalda. And I'm like,
En la espalda.
En la espalda. She's like, sí, tu espalda peluda, ahí te la vi. And I was like, oh my God,
Whoa.
damn, she read me. And I said, no, it's my pierna, it's on my thigh. And she's like, oh, pues, es tu vida, lo que tú quieras.
It's
and
your
I was
life.
like,
Yeah, they always say that. It's like, it's your life. Tú sabrás. Like, it's up to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, this is Andres' first tattoo.
Yes.
I have 1, 2,
many.
3, 4, 5, 7. I have 7. So I was kind of walking him through it.
Yeah. Because I was panicking there for a few days and I was like, hey, the stuff's falling off. What do I do? And you're like, that's normal. That's the extra ink. That's the extra
just keep it
skin.
moisturized.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out. It looks just as good as when she tattooed it. I was scared there because it was like looking crusty and weird there for a few days. And now it's fine. It's just whatever.
Yeah. And this is like, I mean, I've never gotten tattooed in Illinois, so maybe I'll hit up your tattoo artist and
yeah,
have her do something on me.
Although I feel like from the time that you got tattooed to when I got tattooed now was different because they put saran wrap on you like you were like a microwave baked potato or something. You came home with fucking saran wrap on you. And she like shaved my leg and put the second skin on and it felt like nothing. Mm-hmm. Even you were like, you're not supposed to let your clothes rub up on your tattoo. And I was like, I have something on it.
Well, it didn't look like you had anything.
And then you looked at it, you're like, what? And I was like, yeah, And you were like, oh,
You make me sound so aggressive, and
you're worried. You were worried because afterwards you told me, you're like, oh, I didn't mean to sound so aggressive. I just don't want you to ruin your tattoo and then you regret it afterwards. So I get it. You were trying to look out for me. But it was just, I don't know, just like that second skin, I feel like it's kind of a newer thing that's been happening. So
yeah.
that's been fun. And for anybody asking, the moth tattoo, it's like the most basic, like thin line tattoo that I got on my thigh that I've been wanting for a long time. They call them like Pinterest tattoos because they're basic and thin line, but I really liked it.
Hmm.
And it signifies like the different cycles of life. And I feel like right now us moving, we're like in a different cycle. And I know that like I feel like just everything that's gone, that's we're just cycling through life right now. There's just a lot happening.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of cycles. This new presidency, like us moving a year ago, like the different jobs that we've had. And so it's kind of just like an acknowledgement of like how things change and we have to be okay because you can't just stay in the past. Like you kind of have to move forward or there's no other option.
Hmm.
So,
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Do you want to jump into your case?
No, I actually had a couple other things that I wanted to talk about before we do. I waited because this is a little more serious. On our Instagram page, we have an All My Links link that you can click on, and we've got some immigration resources. We've got a resource in Spanish. It's called ¿Cuáles son tus derechos si es ciega? It talks about what to do if they come to your house, to your place of employment, or if you're out and about. And then there's an English resource that's Know Your Rights if you encounter ICE. Then we've got a couple of places that you can actually donate to, which is the NIJC, the National Immigrant Justice Service or Center. And you can donate to that organization or the Immigrant Legal Resource, and that's another one. We still have our Support Palestine links up there. If you guys want to support Palestine, they're there as well. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about that because I don't want to scare anybody and I don't want to fearmonger or anything, but I've seen where a lot of Middle Eastern students, that are here on like student visas,
Hmm.
have been protesting for Palestine, and now ICE is kind of just showing up and pulling them off the street. They're saying, oh, you're protesting, they're catching them. And they're like targeting them and showing up to wherever they are, like in regular people clothes, no warrant, no nothing. And it's happened several times now. So it's like they're targeting these people on student visas or that are like residents, and they're picking them up off the street. It's a very scary time. I don't want to alarm anybody or anything like that, but it just seems that like we need to talk about it. It's happening. So I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. No, well, thank you.
So I know that's crazy. Let's segue away from that really quick. I know that's like, I don't want to seem insensitive, but in other news, have you heard about the pyramids in Giza and what the discourse that's happening with that right now?
No.
Okay, so apparently some researchers went out to Giza and they have like sonar equipment or something that reads the ground. And they put their machines close to the pyramids of Giza and were actually reading like through sonar through like, I don't really understand how it can like pick up stuff between sand because sand is like such a weird, it's not like,
It moves a lot.
yes, it shifts.
Hmm.
They're saying that there's coils that go under the pyramids all the way like hundreds of feet down into this big box, this big cube that's under the ground. And they're showing like sonar, and they're saying that like there's a lot of speculation like the pyramids are actually like conduits of energy. They're saying that there's underground cities down there. There's like a lot of like Egyptologists coming out and they're like arguing, and it's just, I've been like keeping up with like the different articles that have been coming out, the different TikTok videos of people covering it. It's very interesting because, you know, you've got like the scientific side of it that are like, oh, these were devices that were created that go under the pyramids to make them stable in the sand. There are other people that are like, these are energy conduits, or there's an underground city. Other researchers are saying, oh, just like the Mayans and the Aztecs, they built pyramids on top of caverns or things that are like natural worship sites that are in the world, like cenotes, you know? There's some pyramids that are built on top of cenotes. So they're saying these pyramids are built on top of some caverns and stuff like that. There's stuff down there that they use for worship, and that's what that is. And they're arguing and saying the sonar that you guys are using doesn't actually reach all the way down there. So you guys aren't giving accurate information. Like, we need to study this more instead of just announcing that there's an underground city, that there's coils under the pyramids with spires going down hundreds of feet to a box. Like, it, again, it's just like misinformation. There are other people saying that like the Nephilim were actually the ones that built the pyramids, and this is proof that like a whole bunch of other biblical stuff was going on around that time. Very interesting stuff.
There's always a conspiracy theory that like sounds plausible, and then there's those conspiracy theories that are like just like way out there.
Yeah.
So, and to those that don't know, the Nephilim were the children of, and I don't think it's even in the Bible.
No, it's like extra books that never got included.
Yeah, it's additional DLC, but it's the children of angels that came down and had children with humans, and they were basically like the giants in the Bible.
Yeah, something like that.
That's crazy.
It's, yeah, I've been watching a lot of videos, and not like for more of the paranormal aspect of it, but I'm like, what are these coils, or like, what is this? What are the pyramids for? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm thinking about anything paranormal, but I'm just like, oh, I like architecture. Like, are these for stability? Are these to generate energy? Are there places of worship under the sand that are under these pyramids? Like, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
It's just been very, very interesting to me. So,
And I mean, there's also the argument that you can make that maybe they're misinterpreting what it actually is. Like you said, they might literally just be columns to support the pyramid so it doesn't collapse into the cavern. But someone looking at it may say like, oh wow, they're coils, they're sucking up energy or something like that. Where what?
and I'll show you, this is like, we might post this on the Instagram, but this is what they're showing that they say it looks like above the pyramids. And this is what they're actually seeing on the sonar under the pyramids.
But they're not even evenly spaced out. So it can be just caverns.
Well, look at this. These are closer to the front. These are a little further back. Those
okay.
are a little further right. This doesn't like show like a good perception of like depth.
Yeah.
So like, but these definitely look closer. And when you look at them and they're like how blurry they are, they definitely do look like they're in the same, like they coincide. Like these two looked like they're in the very front. The two behind them look like they're in the same space behind them. Like, it looks interesting.
Yeah. I think
So-
the practice of like archaeology is interesting because there are some situations where like one guy will say, oh, this was used, I don't know, this was used for rituals back in the day. And then someone else comes by and they're like, this is a comb. Like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's so subjective because ultimately we don't know. A lot of this is just guessing. So
Yeah. And sometimes it helps when you have, like, if you have a person that's like of that area and they're an archaeologist, I feel like what happens a lot is you have like a random person that's been studying Aztec and Mayan for a really, really long time, but they've never actually been to the countries where they used to live.
yeah.
And then they come and they're like, oh my God, I just found this. And I think that they use this to like scoop brains out from people's heads.
Yeah, just some outrageous.
Yeah. And then people that are
idea.
from there, the archaeologists is like, actually, no, we still have a tool that we kind of use, like indigenous people use like this today. And they're for this. So I think that this is a primitive version of that. It was to scoop milk out of coconuts. And they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh. And I'm like, I'm sure that
Okay.
people that don't have the cultural context, that happens.
Yeah.
So, but
That's
again,
true.
I'm generalizing, I'm saying things, but I feel like I've read about those things happening before where you
I
have
mean,
just
they
people that
happen.
are not familiar.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
happen.
So it's super interesting. Just wanted to throw that out there. That was something very interesting that was happening right now. And I wanted to talk about it.
No, I never heard about it. I think you mentioned it right before we were recording, and I was like, I don't know. What's it about? And you're like, I'm not going to tell you. I want your honest reaction.
Yeah.
Well, my honest reaction is, huh? That's it.
Interesting. All right. So I think now we can jump into the case.
Okay.
Okay. So I did Appalachia in Spanish, but I
Okay.
found a really good case out of Appalachia, right? Like this one. So you guys can go back into the Spanish episode that I did. It's about Appalachia. Listen to that one first and then come forward to this one. So it's kind of like a part
Like kind of a sequel?
2.1, I think.
Sure. That's not how it works.
Well, because it's not like directly. It's like just something that happened in Appalachia,
Yeah.
but it like let's get into it and then we'll decide afterwards. Have you heard of the Alleghany Mountain disappearance?
No, but it sounds familiar.
Okay. So my information came from a strange disappearance on Alleghany Mountains from Missing Void on YouTube, or the Wikipedia page, The Lost Children of the Alleghanies, and the lineup.com, Lost Children of the Alleghanies.
Okay, so this is like children that went missing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So Samuel and Susanna Cox came from Jonestown, Pennsylvania. Samuel was born in May of 1815 and Susanna in November of 1827. They spent their early lives in that quiet town and eventually married there in 1847, but not long after that, they welcomed two sons, George and Joseph. By the early 1850s, life in Pennsylvania had grown difficult. Work was scarce, and the family struggled to make ends meet. Hoping
Just continue.
Hoping for a fresh start, they packed up in 1851 and headed west to Indiana. Perfect decision, Indiana.
No one has ever said that.
Unfortunately, that move quickly ended up going badly. According to Charles McCarthy, who chronicled their story in The Lost Children of the Alleghanies and published in 1888, Indiana was grappling with a widespread malaria outbreak at the time. The Cox family wasn't spared. They all fell seriously ill and endured weeks of sickness before finally recovering. Deciding they'd had enough hardship, they made their way back to Pennsylvania. This time, though, they settled deep in the forested hills of Bedford County in a secluded place known as Spruce Hollow. There, in the shadows of the Alleghany Mountains, part of the Appalachian Range, they built a cabin by hand in a clearing surrounded by dense woods. It was isolated, but that's how they liked it. This was their new home. Spruce Hollow lies southwest of Pittsburgh, not far from the small community of Pavia. Life there suited them. As McCarthy described it, the mountain air seemed to revive the family. The children, especially George and Joseph, flourished in the peaceful setting. For 5 years, the Coxes lived simply but happily in their remote cabin until everything changed in the spring of 1856. And sorry, my cat just sneezed. It was the morning of April 24th. Samuel sat at the table with Susanna, their sons George and Joseph, now 7 and 5 years old, and their two younger daughters, Sarah and Anna. As they ate breakfast, they heard their dog barking somewhere off in the distance. This wasn't unusual. The dog often chased squirrels or barked at the forest's edge. Samuel stepped outside to check it out. He figured the sound was coming from about 200 yards away. The bark didn't let up, though, so Samuel eventually decided to go fetch the dog. He left the rest of the family behind at the cabin and made his way through the trees. When he reached the dog, he still wasn't sure what had gotten it so worked up, seeing nothing out of the ordinary, so he simply turned back. Though McCarthy noted that Samuel took a different path on the return trip, probably hoping to tire the dog out so it wouldn't bark anymore. No one knows exactly how long he was gone, but when Samuel finally returned home, something was wrong. George and Joseph were not there. He asked Susanna and the girls if they'd seen where the boys had gone, but Susanna said she thought the boys had followed Samuel outside. They had slipped out just after he did, and she assumed that they were with him the whole time. This was when the realization started to set in that the boys must have tried to follow their father and somehow gotten lost in the woods.
Ooh.
The land around the cabin had been cleared by Samuel, but beyond that lay nothing but thick forest stretching for miles in every direction. The parents started by searching the area right around the cabin. Once they didn't find them there, they started searching further out. They followed the same path Samuel had taken towards the barking, hoping to pick up their trail at some point. But panic quickly set in. Samuel and Susanna began running in separate directions through the woods, calling their sons' names again and again, but no voices ever called back. The boys had vanished into the forest, and with each passing moment, the truth of the situation sunk deeper. They knew, like, the longer they're out there, at this point they're not gone very long, but in the back of their minds, they knew that if they were going to be out there too long, like, they weren't going to survive.
And was this like in a pretty remote area?
A little bit, yeah. They're out in the woods.
Like how far would you say that the closest...
I'll tell you on the story.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
After their frantic search turned up nothing, Samuel and Susanna clung to one last hope. Maybe the boys had circled back and returned to the cabin, but when they raced home, the place was still empty. The panic they felt now turned to dread. In desperation, they ran to their nearest neighbor, breathlessly explaining what had happened. Word of the missing children spread fast. Riders took off on horseback to nearby settlements, alerting everyone that they could. It wasn't long before a large-scale search began to take shape. One by one, people arrived. Neighbors, friends, strangers, until over 200 volunteers gathered at the Cox family's cabin ready to help. Search parties formed and headed into the woods. With so many hands, there was a renewed sense of hope. Surely with enough people combing the forest, the boys would be found, but everyone knew that time was against them. The mountain nights were dangerously cold, way too cold for two kids to survive for very long without shelter. Moved by urgency, locals dropped everything. Farmers left their fields, shopkeepers shuttered their stores, workers walked away from their jobs. They all made for the mountain, united by the same chilling thought. If the boys weren't found soon, they likely wouldn't survive the night. And sure enough, as dusk fell, the temperatures plummeted. Dark clouds gathered in the northwest sky, warning of an approaching storm. Samuel, now exhausted from searching all day, begged the volunteers to continue looking through the night. He feared the worst: predators, exposure, snow, the worst things that he could think of in that situation happening to his little boys. Despite the risk, many of the searchers agreed to stay. They lit campfires across the mountainside, hoping...
Opening?
What the fuck is it wrong
That's
with
the
me?
second time you said that. Opening?
The hope is opening from their chest. That's what they're wishing. They lit campfires across the mountainside, hoping the flickering flames would catch the boys' eyes and guide them to safety. But the night passed in silence. The children never came. It didn't make sense. The search had been organized. They had covered a large radius from the cabin, combing through ravines, climbed hilltops, scoured every clearing, and still no sign of George or Joseph, not even a footprint. McCarthy, who later chronicled the events, described the boys as gentle and sweet. George, the older of the two, had dark hair and bright blue eyes. Joseph, at just 5, had lighter hair and gray eyes. Both boys were small for their age, attributed to most likely catching malaria in Indiana at such a young age. George was sharp for his years, always looking after his younger brother, often taking him by the hand as they played. The two were so close, they rarely, if ever, argued. The next morning, recognizing how serious the situation had become, the call went out once again. Riders galloped from village to village, urging more people to join the search. By the second day, close to 1,000 people had gathered on the mountain. Some ventured into unexplored terrain, while others retraced old paths in case anything had been missed. The weather didn't cooperate, though. The day was raw and bitter. Clouds hung low and heavy, and biting wind swept down from the north. The boys weren't dressed for this kind of cold. Every hour that passed brought more dread. Still, the crowd grew. Hundreds more arrived from surrounding towns and even further beyond, flooding the area with volunteers. The forest echoed with voices calling the boys' names. The entire mountain, hills, thickets, swamps, cliffs was searched and searched again, but no one could locate them. Night fell once more, another freezing night, another round of fires dotting the wilderness. Searchers stayed out in the storm again, refusing to give up. By now, this had become one of the largest searches anyone in the region could remember. Nearly 2,000 people were involved now.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry. So, was this in a residential area? Or was it like an estate park, maybe? Or
This is the 1800s.
oh,
This is like
oh my God! Did I miss that detail?
Yes, 18. This happened in 18 something, 1840 something.
Oh my God!
So like
this changes everything.
The houses are probably half miles away from each other. There's no electricity. There's no like cars.
Like Puritans, right?
Yeah, there's
the Pilgrims.
Kind of. I would think more like The Witch. Do you remember that family that kind of like
Anya Taylor?
Yes, the movie with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Taylor-Joy.
That is what I pictured when I pictured this family, like living out in the wilderness, like growing their own food.
This changes things for me. This whole time I'm like,
where were you?
I don't know. This happened in the 80s. I don't know.
No, 1800s, 1880s.
Okay. No. I screwed it up. I'm sorry.
Oh, now you confused me. Okay, so what it was is that McCarthy, the guy who wrote about this disappearance, wrote about it in 1888.
Okay.
Okay? That's when he wrote it.
So this was like you said, everyone's riding horses. I was like, dude, why didn't they get in the car? Like,
so
because they couldn't.
When this happened, actually, sorry, I had to go back in my notes and find it. It was 1856.
Mm-hmm.
So this is
Okay.
the spring in April of 1856.
Okay.
So, and
Got
this
it.
is Pennsylvania, so it's still kind of cold.
Okay. Go through the whole thing again.
You want me to read it over?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, where was I? On the third day, April 27th, 1856, frustration began to turn to suspicion. One man, Charlie Ross, couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He began to suspect foul play. In his mind, the idea that the boys could disappear so quickly and leave no sign behind just didn't add up, and he started pointing fingers. Convinced the parents were hiding something, Ross rallied a small group of men and stormed the Cox cabin. They tore the place apart, ripping up the floorboards, searching every corner, even digging up the garden. They were sure they were going to find some clue, some remains, some hidden truth, but there was nothing, not a single piece of evidence to back their claims. They
And
just,
this was just some guy going off vibes.
yeah.
Like no evidence
He's
at
like,
all.
I bet that they killed their kids and I'm going to search their cabin. When they realized they had no proof,
Wow.
the accusers panicked. Afraid the rest of the 2,000 searchers would turn on them, they fled the area, abandoning the effort entirely. In the end, all they left behind was a ransacked home of the two grieving parents because the kids are still missing.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this family, it has just lost like two children. They don't know where they are, and this group of guys just like they vandalize their house.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, it's crazy. As the days dragged on, the bitter cold showed no signs of letting up. The Cox family's fear deepened, but then a flicker of hope brought through the gloom. A rumor began to circulate that someone had found something. A hunter nearly 10 miles from the cabin claimed to have come across some small footprints. 4 of them. It looked like George and Joseph had passed through the area. It wasn't much, but it was the first real lead anyone had had for days. Thanks to the way searchers were positioned across the mountain, word of the discovered footprints spread fast. Samuel and Susanna heard almost immediately, and without hesitation they joined and rushed to the site. Hundreds of people swarmed to the remote spot, fueled by the renewed hope that finally felt like a breakthrough. They finally felt like they were going to find them. At the location where the tiny prints were found, search split into groups and fanned out in all directions, disappearing into the thick tree line. McCarthy would later describe this moment as a turning point in morale. After days of cold and despair, the energy among the crowd had shifted. For the first time since the boys had vanished, people truly believed that they were on the verge of finding them. They could almost feel them. This was like the first piece of evidence that they had found.
It was like a lead.
Yeah.
Right?
The
Okay.
trail went abruptly cold.
Oof.
The footprints faded into the underbrush and no other signs turned up. No clothing, no broken branches, and no clues at all. Searchers were baffled. Many began to question how 2 young boys, that small for their age, had managed to travel such a long distance through rough, unforgiving terrain and in that brutal weather. Still, Samuel and Susanna clung to the hope that George and Joseph were out there, alive and trying to find their way home. As night fell again, fires were lit across this new area of the mountain. The winds, which had howled relentlessly since the boys vanished, finally died down. On the 5th day of the search, an eerie stillness settled over the land. McCarthy described the mountains as unnervingly quiet that night. The silence only broken by the distant cry of a wolf or the sharp scream of a wildcat echoing through the trees. By now, rumors and speculations were flying in every direction. Some believed the boys had surely succumbed to the cold or have been taken by wild animals. Others argued that if that were the case, something would have been found by now. The absence of evidence left room for wild theories. That someone had taken the children, perhaps to raise them in another religion, that they had fallen into Bob's Creek and drowned, that they were still alive and simply wandering deeper in the forest, but none of it could be proven. The mystery only grew. And Bob's Creek to them was kind of like a river that went through, like where they were searching, they had to pass a river. So a lot of them were saying like they had to have fallen into Bob's Creek because this is kind of like this water is too strong for 2 little boys to walk past.
Yeah.
So that was also something that they kept bringing up. They're like, they probably fell in and drowned or something like that. So.
Oof, and how scary would it be, like, I don't know, to be out there at night? But even like you said, like if something had happened to them, if they were like attacked by an animal, there would have been some type of like evidence left over, like a piece of their clothing or their bodies, or anything. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, what you're saying is true. At this point, almost everyone involved in the search agreed on one troubling fact. George and Joseph should have been found by now, and things started to take a strange turn. So since it's the 1800s,
Yeah.
they don't have any modern technology, so they kind of like try to organize themselves in a methodical search. Each day, someone familiar with a certain region took charge, organized the teams, and directed them to specific areas. Thousands of volunteers had covered the terrain. They checked every fallen tree, every stream, every hollow. In some places, searchers had stood shoulder to shoulder, combing through the ground so thoroughly that very little had been left untouched, which made the next development all the more disturbing. Sometime on the fifth or sixth night, a woman named Benair, who lived near the base of the mountain, reported hearing something unsettling. Late at night, from within the forest, she heard the unmistakable sound of a child crying. She stepped outside, called into the darkness, even ventured out into the night a little bit, but no one answered. Nothing stirred. The crying had stopped. The next day, she told her neighbors what she'd heard. Another round of intense searching followed, but once again, it didn't lead anywhere. Some would later say that she might truly have heard one of the boys, and perhaps it may have been George or Joseph, crying out while the other brothers slept beside him. But if so, the opportunity to reach them had slipped away. What made the whole thing more chilling was this. The cries had come from an area that had already been searched multiple times by hundreds of people, and yet no evidence had ever turned up. The cries were never heard again, though. The growing strangeness of it all pushed some searchers toward more unconventional ideas. So, a group rode out to find a man known as a dowser, someone who claimed that he could locate hidden things from water to minerals to missing people using sticks or divining rods. Though dowsing is widely regarded as a pseudoscience, desperation has a way of making people kind of cling on to anything. Like they were desperate for anything at this point.
I mean, at this point, they probably tried a lot of things and they're like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Might as well see if it does anything.
The man lived in a place called Morrison's Curve, and when summoned, agreed to help. He arrived at Cox's cabin and began his process, waving a forked peach tree branch as he attempted to read the land, quote unquote. Claiming to know which directions the boys had gone, he set off with a small party of followers. But things quickly fell apart. The dowser became disoriented, unable to navigate the mountain. In fact, had it not been for those people that were with him, he might have become the next person that needed to be rescued. His efforts yielded nothing, and it became clear that he was not going to be the one that solved the mystery. Even after that failure, some were still willing to explore unorthodox solutions. In a final bid for answers, they turned to a self-proclaimed forest witch living in Somerset County. She was brought to the mountain, and after performing several rituals, declared that she could see the boys clearly. In her vision, George and Joseph were alive, sheltered under a great tree in the woods, sleeping on a bed of leaves and living off chestnuts they'd found during the winter. The image was oddly specific, but when she made a demand, she could not locate the boys unless she was paid. Despite their doubts, searchers paid her. She confidently stated the boys would be found by 10 a.m. the next morning. But then the next morning came and there was nothing, no discovery, no sign. As time dragged on, she kept shifting the timeline, insisting that they were getting closer. By afternoon, she claimed to be feeling unwell and asked to be taken home. Her promise dissolved into nothing, another dead end. With hope flickering and unconventional methods proving fruitless, the search returned to more traditional efforts, and that's when something really bizarre happened on the 10th night after the boys vanished. A farmer named Jacob Dilbert, who lived a dozen or so miles from the mountains, went to bed as usual, but when he woke up the next morning, he remembered something strange, an incredibly vivid and unsettling dream. In it, he found himself wandering through an unfamiliar forest. As he walked, he came upon the carcass of a deer. Past that, he noticed a small abandoned shoe, clearly a child's. He followed a narrow trail that led him to a large stream, which he crossed by walking along a fallen beech tree. On the other side, the terrain climbed over a ridge called Blue Ridge and dipped down into a ravine where a small brook trickled through the trees, fed by one of those nearby mountain gorges. Then just ahead, beneath a large birch tree, Jacob saw them, the still bodies of George and Joseph laying side by side. He jolted awake.
Oh my God.
Yeah, super weird. At first, Jacob dismissed the dream. He had heard about the missing boys several days earlier and figured the news had worked its way into his subconscious. While it had shaken him, he didn't think it meant anything. He was a sensible man, not the type to put stock into omens or visions, or he never considered himself sensitive. So he kind of just like ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
But he casually mentioned it to his wife Sarah, and she surprised him. She had grown up in the area and recognized the exact place he described, and it was real.
Sorry, this was to the psychic lady?
Sarah's his wife.
Oh, it's his wife. Sorry. I was so like thinking about that psychic lady. It reminded me of Sylvia Brown. Are you familiar with her?
No.
She was a proclaimed psychic, claimed of being like so accurate and of like she worked with like a lot of like police officers and police departments.
Uh-huh.
And out of all like the 25 cases that she worked, she was wrong in every one of them.
Holy shit.
Then she later said that, sorry, today I learned, this is on Reddit, today I learned despite her repeated claims of being more than 85% accurate, a 2013 article found that Sylvia Brown, who claimed to be a psychic, was accurate in none of her 33 predictions. For instance, she predicted that she would die at the age of 88, but she passed away at the age of 77. So things like that. And that's not to like, speak ill of the dead or anything, but it does make it weird when it's like, if you do have these abilities and the lives of 2 children are at stake, why would you charge for it? Just help them.
Yeah. So anyways, to recap,
Yes.
had this dream. He woke up. He was like, oh, that's weird. I've never been sensitive. I don't believe in that stuff. Like, that was strange. Hey, Sarah, wife, ha ha ha, this dream I had last night.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, wait a minute. That place you're describing, it actually looks just like that. And you've never been there, right? And he's like, no, I've never been there. So she's like, that's weird. How do you know what it looks like then?
Yep. So was it him looking through the eyes of somebody else or like him just observing?
He just dreamed about it. It was like he was a little drone floating around.
Okay.
Yeah. Even then, after like talking to his wife, Jacob shrugged it off until the second night. The same dream returned, identical in every detail. Still hesitant to draw attention to himself, Jacob stayed quiet. But when it happened a third time, he couldn't ignore it anymore. Something deep inside him was urging him to go see it for himself. There was just one problem. Jacob wasn't experienced enough in the woods. He worried that if he tried to navigate the forest alone, he might get lost too. So he reached out to his brother-in-law, Harrison Wysong, who lived closer to the Cox cabin and knew the mountain pretty well. Harrison was skeptical. He thought the whole thing sounded ridiculous, but agreed to go if only to keep Jacob from wandering off on his own and potentially becoming another person the community would have to search for. Jacob believed the place he'd seen was about 5 or 6 miles from the Cox home, but Harrison pointed out one glaring issue. The area Jacob described was on the far side of Bob's Creek. It was a strong, cold stream, and everyone, including seasoned searchers, had assumed there was no way the boys could have crossed over it. So this is where I was talking about this earlier.
So they never went that far because they were like, oh, they wouldn't have been able to cross the river.
Correct. Like, because the way that it's described is that it's a creek.
Yeah.
But I almost think like it's like when it rains or something, or like when there's a lot of snow, it probably turns into a small river. And so around this time, during the winter time, there's snow runoff. There's probably a lot of water in the creek. And so they're like, oh, they couldn't have gone past this creek because it looks more like a river right now. According to McCarthy, that's why no one had searched that side of the mountain. The terrain was tough, the water was dangerous, and the idea that 2 small children could make it across seemed impossible. And so the 2 men set off together, with Jacob leading the way. What happened next unfolded almost exactly as he had seen it in his dreams. As they walked, they passed a dead deer. Jacob stopped in his tracks and said, "This is it." He said, "This is where it started." Further on, they found a child's shoe. The younger boys then came Bob's Creek. Jacob pointed out the beach log spanning the stream. "This is where I crossed in the dream." They moved over Blue Ridge and descended into a ravine following a small mountain brook. The woods opened up around them, just as they had in the dream, and at last they came to a tall birch tree. And there beneath it lay the boys, George and Joseph, side by side, emaciated, still, just as Jacob had seen in his dreams.
Oh my God.
Years later, McCarthy interviewed Jacob's widow, Sarah, now remarried and known as Miss Sarah Gardner. She explained that Jacob had been deeply moved by the boys' disappearance. When they first heard the news on April 27th, he had wished he could help, but felt helpless because he didn't know the land. His strange dream and the fact that it led him to the boys affected him for the rest of his life. Jacob would later enlist in the military and rise to the rank of corporal, but he never lived to tell the story himself. He was killed at Point of Rocks, Virginia during the Civil War.
Wait, so by the time that he had the dream, the boys would have already been like dead at that point.
Well, yeah, it was like 10 days in since they had disappeared.
Yeah. Wow.
Sarah confirmed that Jacob and Harrison found the boys on May 8th, 1856. The 15 days of the search, by that point, over 4,000 people had been combing the mountain. Around 11 a.m. that day, the word spread quickly. The Cox boys had been found. Several doctors who had volunteered to assist during the search were present on the mountain that day, ready to provide emergency care if needed, but there was nothing they could do now. When they searched the scene, they noticed something chilling. There was nothing in the area that could have sustained the boys. No berries, no chestnuts, no shelter. The physicians concluded that George and Joseph had likely died of starvation. Their bodies bore scratches from thorns and brush, their clothes were torn, and their shoes, found separately, were worn through. It was clear that they had wandered for days, struggling through rough terrain before finally collapsing beneath the tree. Based on their condition, doctors estimated that they had died just a few days earlier, likely around May 5th. They had survived for nearly 2 weeks. They'd been so close to being rescued.
Wow.
Their small bodies were placed carefully on a sled and brought down the mountain to Samuel and Susanna, whose grief now had the weight of finality. McCarthy noted that the funeral that followed was one of the largest ever held in the area. More than 5,000 people came to pay their respects. As a reward for finding the boys, Jacob Dibert was offered $50 or about $2,000 today after adjustments for inflation. But he refused to keep it. Instead, he gave the money to the Cox family and asked that it be used to buy a gravestone for the children. Today, a monument stands at the spot where George and Joseph were found. Its inscription reads, George H. 7 and Joseph H. 5 wandered from their Spruce Hollow home on April 24, 1856. Hundreds of people searched for them for 2 weeks without success. Jacob Dibert, a local farmer, had the same dream 3 times about where the boys could be found. On May 8th, Jacob and his brother-in-law, Harrison Wysong, set out to follow signs from his dream: a deer carcass, a little shoe, a log across a stream, and a birch tree with a broken top. They found the boys' bodies nestled in the roots of the birch. This monument marks the spot where the boys were found.
Wow. I feel like I have a few questions. I just don't. Do you think it was someone that took them at first?
I don't know.
Or do you think I don't know, like, because I'm thinking, like, what could have caught their attention that they would have wanted to leave and, like, wander around or something? I mean, I get it, they're children. So it's like if they... Oh, no, like you said, like, they were probably following their dad.
Yeah.
But they ended up getting lost. I don't know. Something like that is always, like... I don't know. This has to be, like, the oldest case that we've covered so far. A few hundred years.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was super interesting when I heard it.
Yeah. I did want to mention that, like, I don't know, before, like, especially this time, this area, like, I feel like it'd be very scary to be out at night.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be just pitch black all the time.
Yeah.
There are legends of, like, creatures that live out in this area anyway, so I don't know, I'm thinking maybe something lured them out. And they ended up dying from exposure and starvation.
Yeah. Well, hold on, because I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was the end.
No, I was
I'm
giving
over
you
here, like, doing, like, all right, theories.
I was giving a pause for effect.
Oh,
Samuel and Susanna remained in their mountain cabin after the tragedy. Life, as it often does, continued. In time, they had more children. But the question of what really happened to George and Joseph, that one really never quite faded in the community. People always speculated and wondered. How did the boys end up in such a remote, rugged place? Why did no one find them sooner, despite the 4,000 people searching across the 2 long weeks? Theories have swirled around ever since, and honestly, it's easy to see why. 2 small children vanished into thin air. Searchers combed every inch of the forest, and they couldn't find them. Then, in a crazy-ass twist, the farmer dreams about it, and they're the exact place that he dreamed of. It's crazy. It's like another one of like the very confusing things is Bob's Creek. The boy should have not been able to make it across this creek. It was very grown. The creek has a strong current, and even in the best conditions, it's a challenge. Some part can swell with waves nearly 3 feet high. George and Joseph were small, weak from illness, and not dressed for such an ordeal. Even their own parents believed it was impossible.
That's kind of what I was thinking, where they kind of had the correct, what's the word? The correct idea that's like, oh, they wouldn't have been able to cross, but it wouldn't have hurt to be like, let's check over there anyway, just in case.
Yeah. So this made everybody uneasy when it happened, and there was a lot of suspicion flying around. And then you have to admit, like, it's kind of bizarre how John, was his name John? Joseph?
Joseph the farmer?
Joseph the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
How would he know? Why would he dream about that?
Oh.
He described the dream, and it played out in eerie detail. A deer carcass, a child's shoe, a log, a stream, a birch tree. And then at the end of the trail, the boys were exactly where he said they would be.
Oh my God. This whole time I'm thinking like, oh my God, he's like, it came to him in a dream.
Did he make it up? Could he have had something to do with the disappearances?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility, but there are things that just don't make sense. Like, for example, Jacob had never met Samuel or Susanna. He didn't even know they existed. According to both Jacob and his wife, they didn't hear about the missing boys until 3 days into the search effort. He lived about 12 miles away, which is quite a long ways back then.
Mm-hmm.
When there were no cars. You had to ride a horse.
And if you didn't have a horse, you had to walk.
And dude, like, imagine back then in that day, in that type of territory, I think like 12 miles is a full day's ride of horse out.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a full day's travel.
That's several hours.
Could he have stumbled across the boys by chance, maybe before the dream, and kind of concocted the story after? Technically, it's possible, but still, like, he would still have to have, like, made it across Bob's Creek into the part of the mountain where the kids were and then found them there. He didn't have anything to gain from it. And then when they gave him money, he said, no, I don't want the money. Use it for your kid's headstone. So he didn't gain anything from it.
That is confusing. Well, you think he did it?
I don't think he did it.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Are you not listening?
No, because I can argue the opposite. I can argue that he did do it. He may have been involved. And he only like tried to clear his name and not make it suspicious when he said like, oh no, I don't want the money. Because that would have been the only thing he gained out of it at that point.
Okay, well then, why say anything at all?
His conscience?
I don't know. If he'd done something wrong, the logical choice would have been to keep silent. He could have let someone else find the bodies or no one at all and quietly stepped away. But instead, he told his wife, then his brother-in-law, then led them directly to where the boys' final resting place was. That, I don't think, is the behavior of someone trying to, like...
Someone guilty.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you mean. But someone that is innocent had that dream. Like, say, for example, I have a dream like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you about it. If I didn't have anything to do with those deaths of the children, I would tell you, like, hey, you're not going to believe this crazy dream I just had. Especially if it happens twice, I'm probably going to tell you.
Well, he told his wife after the first time.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement that he's innocent.
Yes.
Okay, then why are you arguing with me?
Because I want to argue.
This is a normal conversation.
We haven't had a good argument today, okay?
No, that's true.
I'm fired up. It seems that, like, the most logical explanation for what happened to them is literally what the physician said. They died of starvation.
Starvation, yeah. I was going to say, like, could they do an autopsy? But well, I think autopsies were probably not as fleshed out as they are, like, today.
Their clothes were torn. Their shoes were completely worn through. Their bodies scratched all over, consistent with having struggled through thick brush and thorns.
Oh, that's so sad.
The mountain is dense, and it's unforgiving, and according to the physicians who examined the bodies, there was no sign of trauma, no injuries that suggested foul play. They concluded that the boys had likely died of starvation, probably just 3 or 4 days before they were found.
Oh my God.
And I think that if there were signs of violence, that, like, You know, doctors back then in the day were chismosos. They were fucking telling people's business.
Oh,
They were like,
absolutely.
hey,
HIPAA
this
didn't
girl.
exist back then.
No, they were like, hey, this girl is pregnant by her neighbor because her husband's been gone for 6 months and she's
Yeah, I've read the
4 months
Scarlet Letter.
pregnant.
Yeah, I read the Scarlet Letter.
So, like, that's another reason I think, like, they would have said, like, oh, these kids died because of violence. There's, like, signs of violence on their bodies. People would have found out, like, a lot sooner.
Yep. Besides, like, based on the size of the crowd of people willing to volunteer to help out, everyone would have wanted some type of update. Everyone would have been involved to find a solution for them. So
Yeah. Well, after the kids were found, too,
it would have been hear ye, breaking news.
hell yeah. Some people felt that the parents must have known more than they let on. Kind of the guy that, like, ransacked
Oh
the
my
cabin.
God. Don't tell me he was right.
After all, they lived in total isolation. If they had done something, there would have been little chance of being caught, and literally there was no DNA testing at that time. So what were people going to do?
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that guy was right?
I'm telling you that, like, these are just theories that were flying around at the time.
Is there an answer to this, or are you just making me guess?
I'm going to make you guess a lot.
Wait, hold on. No. Sorry, going back to that guy. He may have been right. Or, no. What if he was right? What if, just based off of vibes, like I said earlier, he's like, those parents did it?
Why would they do it, though?
Because it was
At the time,
it was Puritan times, and they didn't have
well-
many money, and it was winter time.
Susanna had 2 other kids, Sarah and Anna.
Yeah.
Samuel was doing well at the time. They were all doing well, and she was actually pregnant when this happened. Their family was growing. Like, they weren't trying to shrink the family. They weren't, like, in dire straits, not making it through. They were doing financially okay. Like,
We have to go watch The Witch. I need a good like context. I need to be there. Like, I need to close my eyes and be like, okay. Sorry, I feel like I'm trying to solve this. A few hundred years off, but
There was kind of another group, too, that was a little less vocal, but not less convinced, who believed that something else was at work. They leaned to the legends of the Alleghenies and Appalachia and looked into the folklore and clung to that something supernatural happened to the little kids.
oh my god. Didn't I just say?
Yeah. There's a being that's kind of compared to a skinwalker told in Iroquois legends, and they think that it may have something to do with it because this area that, like, they lived in supposedly has a lot of supernatural stuff happens. And when I was looking into the research, it was kind of like akin to Skinwalker Ranch. Like, the local Native Americans would tell of shapeshifters. They would tell about like a curse in the area. Like, it may have been the consequence of lingering bloodshed between, like, the pilgrims that came and the native people, and strange lights, strange disappearances, like things like that. Like, it just, there was a lot going on in the area at the time too. This is the Appalachia, and stuff in Appalachia has been happening for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of like a little group of people that were like, something supernatural happened here, because, like, the 2 boys vanished with no trace, and despite thousands searching day and night, no one found them. Footprints were found in an unlikely area where the boys could not have reached. The woman reported hearing a child's cries in an area which was searched by hundreds, yet nothing was ever found there. Then, like, a bizarre twist, the farmer had the dream and found the kids. But you know what this kind of reminded me a lot of in the YouTube video also? Like, when I was listening to the story, I was like, dude, this kind of reminds me of the missing 411 cases.
Yeah.
Remote, rugged setting, a sudden disappearance. You turn around, you turn back around. Like, it took them just a couple minutes to go turn around where the dog was.
Yep.
And nothing.
Or even then, starting from the very beginning, the way that the dog was acting.
Yeah. Like, barking at nothing. It was super, like, McCarthy made sure to mention in the book that it was like he was really worked up. He was really, really worked up. And so it was like they kind of didn't know why. Then the strange clues like the footprints that lead nowhere, a distant cry in the night, the prophetic dream sometimes. Um, it just all seemed like very familiar to like missing 411 because it's like the way that it was described, the footprints were found way over here, but the actual kids were like way over here. And so I'm like, did they walk from where they were to over there, cry over here, and then come back this way? Like, I'm like, I need a map because
Yes.
it just like, it seemed like these kids had crossed over like a huge amount in the 2 weeks. And that's very, very like akin to like the missing 411 cases, like where the toddler was found like 10 miles away from where he originally disappeared from, like the 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what's happening? But at the very end of the day, what probably happened is, like you said, what they think happened is the dad left, went to go look for the dog. The kids were like, let's go after dad. They followed him. When he was coming back, do you remember I told you that he was trying to like kind of get the dog to work off some steam, so they went back a different way? They probably got like where they were and they're like, well, dad's not here. And at that point, they got lost. And so like at the very end, like I think that that's what happened. What happened after that or in between, I have no idea. But this case was super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That now this is really like, that's all I got.
Oh, that's the end.
Yes.
Shoot. Okay. Dang. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like it may just be a combination of a lot of things that we don't know about. Because, yes, it's weird that the location, like from the very beginning, the dog behaving weirdly, there may have been something out there that maybe have been luring the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, when you were describing, like, the location and the way that they were found, or even the local legends, this reminded me a lot of like the Goat Man story that I mentioned that I shared in that episode.
There's just a lot of parallels. A lot of parallels.
Especially in this area.
And you know what I also thought about when I was reading this case? You remember like when I was doing the missing 411, how there are people that disappear and talk about how they went to an underground world with lots of like glow in the dark mushrooms, and they were getting fed by these little people.
Yep.
And then they would let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like that kind of, if they were somewhere safe, would explain why they survived so many days in the cold.
Yeah.
But then like there's just so many things like, but also I was like trying to be like, I'm like, let's be rational about it. There was a tree laying across the creek. Did the kids use the tree to get across the creek?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Were the kids laying in the bitter cold and may have died several days earlier than they're saying, but because since it was so cold, it kept the bodies like preserved. Like it just like there was not enough technology back then. There are just like inconsistencies, but it's like, it's just weird. It's just strange.
Yeah.
And it happened in Appalachia to top it all off.
I mean, you mentioned it, but everyone was thinking about it. Maybe duendes, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Super interesting story.
And I forgot about what you mentioned, that lady heard like crying at night. Who knows if, I don't know, maybe there was a situation where they went into like a parallel dimension or something, some type of fairy trap. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's just
super
my
weird.
guess.
Well, like now there's a headstone there. Yeah. There's the monument. Like there's the what I read. They have like a little sign that has that whole paragraph on it.
Yeah.
And so they kind of have like a little shrine to like commemorate these little boys disappearing. But
oh, that's so sad too.
Yeah, it is really sad.
And ultimately, like you said, it could have literally just been they went out looking for their dad
and went the wrong way.
And
took a wrong turn.
Yeah.
So sad. Wow. Very heavy.
Yeah.
Let's kind of like, I think it's better if we like step away for just a second. We haven't done this in a really, really long time, and I wanted to bring it up. For the palate cleanser, people have sent us some podcast pets. We went through our emails, and I pulled out some older emails where our prima Eileen sent us a picture of her little chihuahua named Puppy.
Oh,
very cute. Our prima Maddie sent us a little dog dressed like a turkey, and his name's Hobbs.
Oh,
I think you were talking about her, and she was learning Spanish
I
using the
think so.
podcast.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then Nuria has a dog named Ranchera. She's 8 years old and is a total diva, but also has a black cat named Medusa that she adopted during the pandemic. So she
Oh.
was home all the time, and they got really close. And now she probably has separation anxiety because that's what the pandemic was. Like a lot of people adopting dogs and cats so they could feel like they had company. And then they realized when they had to go back to work that their pet was used to them being home all the time and didn't do so well, or had to adjust when they weren't home all the time like they were during the pandemic.
I think it helps when they have another pet, though.
Yeah,
Like,
it does.
and if she has a dog, the dog and the cat are literally hanging out. But it is sad to see, like, if a pet is by itself.
Yeah. I thought I had one more. Oh, no. So Maddie's dog is dressed like a turkey, and he really, really likes kittens. And that's what it was. Because in the pictures that she sent, Hobbs is dressed like a turkey. And then there's a picture of like him in a litter of kitties. And I was like, oh, that's so
Oh.
cute. But I forgot to move the notes over. So
Hmm.
anyways, so what do you have for like the palate cleanser part and not the podcast pets part?
Okay, so we watched the documentary I mentioned, Sugarcane, based on the reservation in Canada. And it was kind of a heavy topic.
It was.
I did not realize it was going to be like that.
You kept telling me, hey, like, I need you to watch this. I need you to pay attention. And I'm like, dude, I'm fighting for my life right now. Like, I need to look at my phone because I can't watch and listen because I will cry.
It was a hard
Like,
watch.
I was trying to, like, I could obviously still hear the video or like the movie, the documentary that was playing, but I couldn't watch what was happening because like the people on screen were crying or they were talking about some heavy topic and I just couldn't do it. Like I couldn't focus because if not, I would have broke down.
I would have liked to kind of cover that as an episode, and maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future we might.
Yeah.
But after watching that documentary, I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for something like that.
It's too
just yet.
soon. It's too soon. Like people that experienced abuse are still alive. They're still walking around. The people that like the little girls that were like SA'd by these priests and they had their children and took them away. Those are people who are still adults that are minor your age right now or a little older walking around and it just
Oh no, they're a lot older. This is stuff that happened like these people are like our parents or like our grandparents' age.
Mhm. Well, there were some schools that were still
Oh, they were still in operation
Yes.
until like the
80s.
80s. Okay.
Yeah, so people like that could be 10 years older than us, barely older than us.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was just I learned a lot of things that I didn't know. I just thought like the US treated Native Americans badly, and Mexico too. Because Canadians are supposed to be nice, but they weren't nice to Native people.
They have a reputation of being like nice, but
And I should have known better because I did the Starlight tours, and so
yeah.
I guess I just never thought that it was that bad. Like the Starlight tours and that happened, but I never thought that they were actively pulling reservation kids out of their homes, putting them in this school, and then like abusing some of them, and then like it was just like crazy.
Yeah. So, other than that, I mean, I've been trying to kind of push us to watch more stuff on like streaming. Like, I mean, we have a lot of streaming services, but we don't really use them.
Yeah.
We got rid of Crunchyroll because honestly, like, we weren't really using it as much as we wanted to.
Yeah.
And everything on Crunchyroll is like now on Hulu for some reason. So, but we watched Wicked. Finally.
Yeah. Kevin did the scream.
So I've been doing the scream periodically, not like screaming.
Can
but
you
I'm
scream
not doing
for everyone?
that. I'm not doing that.
You have to.
So in case you don't know, in case anyone doesn't know the Wicked scream, it's the one that it's the defying gravity scream, like at the very end. When
Kevin
Alphabet
loves to do it.
I only do it as what is it, sarcastically?
I don't even know, but you do it better.
Well, good job. No, I'm not doing that. But I feel like I've been doing it so much. I just unprompted,
As a
just
meme.
as a meme, just
It's
to bother,
memed.
just to bother Andres. And when we finally watched it, I just could not help
He
myself, and I
fucking
just
cracked up. That is the most emotional part of that movie.
literally.
And he was cracking up, and I'm over here like, wow, you made me watch this movie, and I didn't want to watch it. And now I'm kind of emotional, and you're next to me cracking up. Wow.
LOL.
Wow.
LMAO even. That was so funny though.
Oh my God.
I recommend it. I mean, I'm not a musical person, and I think we've shared about that, right? It's like we're not that type of people.
I'm not that type of gay. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't like musicals. Nothing against it. I remember in elementary school, we went to go see like the Nutcracker or something, and that was like, wow, that was good. I'll never come back.
Yeah.
So, just musicals are just not my thing. If you are, I love. Or if it is, I love that for you. But I was like, I don't know, Wicked looks cool, so I made Andres watch it, and now I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah. I hope you are.
I will be watching it by myself in the movie theater.
Oh, I mean, I'm glad you are. I'll be there watching it with you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm super excited for the Minecraft movie because I'm a child.
Oh yeah, I was like, do you really want to watch that?
And I was like, yes, absolutely. I feel like Minecraft for me, I played it in like the worst, when I had the worst anxiety, when I felt the worst. And it helped me disconnect, feel cozy, and feel better. And so like as an homage to that, and me still playing sometimes when I'm a little stressed out, I want to watch the Minecraft movie.
Okay.
I want to see if they did it justice.
I mean, I'm not to be a hater, but I feel like I don't know, Jack Black really wasn't my first option for something like that.
Mm-hmm. But he was so good as Bowser in the Mario movie.
He really was. Absolutely loved that. But for...
Maybe he'll surprise you.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so.
Yeah.
Because kind of going back to a similar topic where we talked about the Until Dawn movie like a few months ago, Mia, friend of the podcast, she and I were talking about... Oh, we were all talking. It's like me, my sister, Giselle, her, and our other friend, Beatriz. We were talking about the Until Dawn movie and what we thought about the trailer. And her and I agreed that we were mad that it didn't follow the same plot as the game.
And then you talked about what I said, and you guys were like, "Boo, boo, tomato, tomato," and I was like, "Wow."
And we're like, guys, what if we just respect it as a separate medium and still appreciate the game? Ugh. And
you were like, nerd, throw a tomato at him.
So after that, Mia and I were like, okay, fine. We'll probably still watch it.
Yeah.
We'll probably still watch it. As for another suggestion. Oh, actually, no. Sorry. Another suggestion. So the YouTube channel that we watch, and I don't remember the name of his show or the name of his channel, but his show is called La Garnacha Capapacha. He is a YouTuber that... Hold on.
Holding.
His YouTube channel is called Peluche Torres, but in the YouTube channel, he has like a segment called La Garnacha Capapacha, which I think is what most of his channel is now, where he reviews like
street food,
or like it's primarily in Mexico, but he has gone to other countries and like tested out there, or like ate his food. And his episodes are like sometimes an hour long, sometimes
they're so
like
good,
30 minutes. So I absolutely recommend it. We've put so many people on this channel, and he's finally getting like his own Netflix series.
Which was, when I saw it and I showed you, I was like, what the
Yeah. I was like, dude, that's your dude, right? That's your friend. And this has been watching him for a while.
I've been watching him for years. I was the one that put Kevin on.
Yep.
He was like, what are you watching? And I was like, your cousin. And he's like, who? And I was like, he's from Mexico City, so I just say he's your cousin. I don't know, all y'all Mexico City people are related.
Probably.
I wasn't going to say anything related to this. Was that it?
I have two more things, and then we can call it a day.
I have one thing.
Okay.
I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I was going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Because I saw this question posed on TikTok. A childhood song that made you realize that you were fruity and or part of the LGBTQIA. And I at first told you Azúcar Amargo by Faye, I think it is.
Okay.
But actually the song where I knew, I was like, damn, I'm gay. Was Enloquéceme by OV7. Dude,
Okay.
I was
Stop! Don't sing it.
Why?
It's copyrighted.
Oh no. Oh man. Anyways, so yeah, it was my favorite song. And I would dance to that song like crazy.
I don't think I ever had a moment for me with music. I don't think there was anything outright that made me think so.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since I'm bisexual. Like, to me, like, I guess the transition in my mind wasn't so drastic.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
I guess. Whatever your truth is.
Thanks. I don't know. When I'm thinking about it, it's like, what song would that have made me think? I'm like, I don't think there ever was.
I don't
one.
know. Well, I don't feel like I even realized it then, but now thinking back on it, I was like, oh yeah, I was gay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably get back to you, but I can't think of one right now. So there
Okay.
probably isn't one.
I just thought it was kind of fun. Maybe if any of our LGBTQIA plus primos, primas, and primes want to tell us what song that they realized they were fruity,
Oh, yeah.
we would love to hear.
We're on YouTube, so I need you guys to comment down below.
And you know what? Now I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of you guys' responses. So I'm going to read them on the podcast.
Perfect. We're finally taking this seriously. 5 years in. Guys, we have a spreadsheet.
Not that we're taking this more seriously, is we're getting more organized.
Oh,
we're
I
getting
love
more
that.
organized.
Yeah, which means more cheeky sods are coming out soon. So
Yeah.
make sure to email us your stories.
Yes.
I guess I have one more thing before we can kind of cut it. Have you heard of the "Would you tie my shoes" test?
Yes.
Okay, then what is it?
I feel like this was a trend on TikTok where a girlfriend asked her boyfriend or somebody in their family to tie their shoe.
Yeah, it was her boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
And I guess it's like a friendship or a spouse test that people are sometimes doing where
Uh-huh.
they will ask them to tie their shoes because it's something like, it's seen to them as like a small task that they're like, oh, if they love me, they'll do this for me.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't agree with friendship tests
Oh,
like
I was
that.
going to say I would love to tie your shoes because I hate the way you tie your shoes.
I've been tying my shoes the same way since I first learned, and I have not deviated from it.
You do the bunny ears and I do the reach around, pull through.
The loop-de-loop and pull,
Yeah.
and my shoes are looking cool.
Yep.
No, I do the bunny ears, and I've been doing the bunny ears. I mean, if it works, it works.
I guess I just feel like from an aesthetic purpose from an aesthetic look at it, when you do the bunny ears, the bow is lopsided. But if you do the reach around and pull through, the bow seems to be level. And it only matters if you're wearing, like, you know how men's dress shoes don't have regular laces and it's those like really thin spaghetti noodle laces?
Yeah.
It looks weird on those shoes if you tie them with the bunny ear method.
I feel like only you would notice something like that.
I do, but But then
I
I
don't
look
know.
at your shoes and I notice them. I see them.
Well, eyes are up here, buddy.
Well, I'm looking at your shoes.
I don't think I ever look at people's shoes. But yeah, I've been doing the same method, but I don't know. To me, like I said, I don't necessarily agree with people doing like friendship tests and stuff like that because it's like, oh, if they love me, they would tie my shoes. It's like, girl,
Yeah.
if you were to tell me, especially if we're getting ready to go out or something, and you're like, hey, can you tie my shoes? And you're just standing there in the hallway, like, can you tie my shoes? I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't love you.
Yeah.
That just means we're
Because
in a hurry.
I know that if I were hurt and I couldn't tie my own shoes, you would tie my shoes for me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no question. Like, that is just something like so arbitrary.
But yeah, if you were physically unable to tie your own shoes, yeah. I hope you like bunny ears, though.
I'm just saying, because with me, you know how I get when you get in the shower first.
Yeah.
And you get out, and then I get in, and I get out, and you're still in your underwear, and I'm like, why are you not ready? And then we're both rushing around, And then it's like, where's my pants? Where's my wallet? What shoes are you wearing? Does this look good? An hour later, 30 minutes late, and you ask me to tie your shoes, I'm about to throw you out of the window, because by that point I'm stressed the out.
I was
I'm
about to ask, like, where are you
stressed.
going with this?
Like, I would be so stressed, and you asked, like, that would be my
Can you
reason.
imagine?
I would say, you know what, I'm leaving, and I would go and I would sit at a coffee shop and drink a fresh beverage and just try to de-stress, because I'm stressed out.
Like, hey, can you tie my shoes?
I don't know.
Oof.
Being late to stuff is just,
That's a separate issue. Hold
yes,
on.
that
We're
stresses me out.
back to the friendship test thing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention it because I thought it was funny. One, and two, because I don't think that's a good scope to test someone's friendship. Or even
Yeah.
saying something like, there was a Reddit story that I think I read on, like, what we listened to, like, on Smosh, like Smosh reads Reddit stories where someone, it was like a girl about to get married, and, or no, this girl's friend was getting married, and she told her, we were trying on all these dresses to see which ones would fit, and there was one that I told my friend, it's like, okay, this one's like white-ish, grayish, but you're not supposed to wear white to the wedding if you're not the bride.
Go ahead and wear it.
And she was like, I don't feel right wearing this. And the friend was like, oh no, you should. If you're my friend, you would wear it. So she's like, okay, sure. So she wore it, showed up to the wedding. She got kicked out, and the bride made a whole big deal about it. She's like, this was a friendship test, because if you really were my friend, you would have not done that.
And
So it's like, okay, well,
didn't she say, like, I told you I wasn't comfortable wearing it and you told me to wear it anyways? Wouldn't a friend listen to what you say?
yeah, I don't remember how that story ended. But yeah, so that's,
Some people are
crazy.
weird.
some people are just, yeah.
I think I'm going to get a little crazy right now and say that, like, human interaction and human relationships are multifaceted, and there's a lot of nuance to it. So once you start putting people to the test and you're testing them,
Especially for a pass or fail type of test.
yeah, like that's getting into kind of weird territory. Like, if you have trust issues with previous things, like, why, like, I see this sometimes where it's like, well, I was cheated on before, then why are you making somebody else's up a problem for the person that's right in front of you? Like, this person has nothing to do with that past person. Like, what's happening? Why are you testing this person in front of you? If, like, you're at the point where, like, you're testing their loyalties, break ties. That's it.
Yeah.
Why are you questioning
true.
it so much? Like, at that point, like, just call it quits.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you questioning it so much? Like, what are they doing? Maybe work on your communication. Instead of putting people to trust tests, work on your communication.
And what did we learn today, everyone?
To work on your communication.
Thank you. Well, I think that is a good stopping point.
I have so much more to say.
I can tell.
I actually don't. I want to go to sleep.
Oh. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening. Please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Get Spooky Podcast. Also, email us any story suggestions or your own scary stories at getspookypodcast@gmail.com. Special thanks to Taylor Turner for the artwork, Kyle Fields for the intro music, and Leonardo for the logo redesign. And don't forget to tell someone you love how much they mean to you.
Goodbye.
Bye.